Welcome to The Truth in This Art. I am your host, Rob Lee, and today I'm in conversation with the co-owner and president at PI.KL Studio. Since its founding in 2010, PI.KL Studio has been injecting contemporary design into old Baltimore structures. Please welcome Kuo Pao Lian. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Rob. It's nice to be here and honored to speak to you.
Thank you for coming on and making the time. So as I really start off this interview, I'd like to ask that very, very general, I'm sure you've answered it a million times sort of question. What's the story? How do we get here? Could you share your background, where you grew up, and ultimately what got you into design and architecture?
Yeah, sure. So what brought us here and brought myself here, I went to college in Lubbock, Texas Tech University, the College of Architecture, the School of Architecture out there. And once I graduated, I came out to Baltimore predominantly just because of the work. We were looking to move to the East Coast, and Baltimore was a very intriguing city at the time. This was in 2004. And I got a job at RTKL and Associates. I think a lot of architects here know that name, and many have gone through that, work there and moved on. So it was almost like passing the torch kind of thing, and met some great people there, friends, that was a great starting point for me here in Baltimore. Since then, I moved on to another company called Copeland Mocked, and again, meeting some really great people, designers and friends again, and just kind of learning the atmosphere here. Like learning the professional sort of architectural community here, and how to do projects and so forth. And in 2007, my wife and I, Pavlina, she's also an architect as well. We met in an architecture school in Lubbock. We both moved to San Diego actually for a couple of years, and we worked for a company called PI.KL Studio. He was a Mexican architect and design builder there in San Diego, and really learned the trade of design, build, and development out there. And it was a really great experience. I mean, we only stayed there 2 years, but I always joke, it felt like 4 because we crammed in so much learning, out there in the West Coast. And so, in 2009, 2010, we were kind of ready to, take a stab at trying our own thing. So Baltimore was calling us back. We I guess even just in our short stint from 2003, 4 to 7, we built some great roots here. So they kept growing, and so we came back, and we haven't left since. We started PI.KL Studio in 2010. So we're about 12 years old now, and we've really in the the first 6 years was a lot of growth, a lot of learning and experimenting, and then this past 6 years has been a lot of tremendous growth for us in terms of projects type, scale, and in terms of the office as well. So that's us in a nutshell. I'm originally from Texas. I was born there. My parents actually are from mainland China and Taiwan. Pavlina, my partner, she's actually from Bulgaria, Eastern Europe. But we found like I said, we found each other at College of Architecture at Texas Tech, and then kind of the rest is history. We became partners both in life and profession, and here we are.
Thank you for walking us through the story of how you got here. So for those who are undipped, you mentioned it, and I want to hear it directly from you. So what's PI.KL Studio? Give me the rundown.
Yeah. Sure. So PI.KL Studio is a architecture office. We specialize in really any type of project, commercial, residential, cultural, multifamily. But we are trained as architects, and we are architecture first, and then we also have a design, build, and development arm of the company. So we at times we will look to design and lead construction or manage construction for some of our projects. Obviously, some of the smaller projects. Our office is, a very humble and small office. So, and we like it that way, and we keep it that way for many reasons. So we do some design build, and then we also do development projects where we use our own capital, or we partner up and we look to purchase a property, or and redevelop and either put back to market, or hold on to that project. So we are big on designing projects for Baltimore City and abroad, outside of Baltimore City as well. And that's us in a nutshell. Yeah.
So yeah, I would imagine that there are buildings that that we walk by, that we see regularly, that those PI.KL fingers have been on in some way, shape, or form. So if you could share a few of those, like, that we might know, and in addition to that, could you describe like the buildings and structures that are in Baltimore, like using your architectural eye, like, how do you describe these buildings? Because I know nothing. I just like, oh yeah, that's abandoned. That's not abandoned. So tell me about that.
Yeah. So we a couple of, to your first question, a couple of projects that you might recognize, or your listeners might recognize, is we designed our house in Remington. We did that quite some time ago. Really taking an old, it was an old auto body shop, and turned that into this really kind of fun, open food hall, sort of a community kind of like incubator kind of type space, and really has been just a thriving, sort of component, or amenity here and there in Remington. Similar kind of program we did a Broadway Market, kind of redeveloped, helped to re-envision what Broadway Market once was, and turned that into a new sort of central, kind of food hub in the middle of Fells Point. Lately, if you saw a new kind of more contemporary multifamily building going up in Little Italy, that's probably our building that we helped design. We designed and for a client there. If you're in the Highlandtown area and you saw a large building kind of going up just down the street from Creative Alliance, that's also our building. It's a project called Home.
Yeah.
And it's a 150 unit multifamily project that's going up. One of our first projects, I'll end on that, is are actually kind of similar projects in scale that you guys, I guess we've done a lot of food projects. So if you're a foodie and you went to Toki Taco, that's our project. If you've been to the Creative Alliance bar on the first floor, that was actually our first project, and that was actually a design build project. So,
oh, really?
That was one of our first projects. We had collaborated with another architect at the time, Gabriel Croix, and so a lot of fun. I would say a lot of the other stuff that's out there you'll see is projects that we interacted with, or we designed or touched, is projects that really promote and engage social sort of activity, engagement, and a lot of stuff that's coming on board right now that's in construction now are going to be even more so evident of places for the public to really kind of interact with and be a part of.
Yeah, I dig it, and so. And I think I've been to either by or into many of these places. I was literally thinking about it, and there is something that kind of pops. Like, I'm not too far from Broadway, and I was literally at our house last Friday having drinks, and I was like, oh, this is really cozy. It feels like it's been here for a while, but it's just so modern, and it definitely has that openness, and it just invites you in, which I really dig about it. And it's not like other food halls I've been to, whether here or abroad. So I really dig that place, and that's where the creatives go. I was just over there with D-Walk because, hey, let's get a drink, man. And it's just like, oh yeah, right there in the bar and all of this setup. So I like it a lot.
Awesome. Thank you. We love it. I think it's, a lot of it is attributed to the owners. Seawall Development was, the developer, and I think it definitely took like minds, right, to get to create something that is effectively, yes, a business for business, but at the same time that it would be a component that would allow for that kind of activity. You shouldn't feel stressed going there. You should always feel like you're welcome. You can sit down, put up your laptop, have a drink. We always joke, we always talked about that. If you stay there the entire day, you can have a full day of experiences there. The morning people that are coming in for their coffee and breakfast, and the ones that stick around, that morning to do their emails on their, and do a little creative, thing. And then you can have lunch, and then you can have happy hour, and then you can have dinner. It's like you can hang out there all day,
Yeah.
and have a different experience and a different vibe in the space.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And I noticed that we kind of have that vibe here, and I'm always in awe of seeing like buildings when they're repurposed and when just reimagined, I guess. And, as a person that I live in my house was a full gut rehab. So that kind of idea is there, but taking something that has a certain structure to it. And then it's like, oh, this looks classic on the outside. And then when you get in the inside, you're like, oh, wow, what happened here? What is this? So I really like that kind of reimagining and modernization of spaces. Like I start to think of like the Vauxhall. I start to think of the Parkway, just different spaces. And you're like, so because I always joke about when I go to the Parkway, I'm like, I'm just waiting for in the main theater, I'm just waiting for blood to come out like of the gargoyle's mouth. But yeah, I really dig that place as well. And I think we have a fair amount of like older buildings here, maybe from like an older like generation. Is that what you're seeing? Is it more of a shift towards more modern buildings on the outside? Mostly like sometimes we just don't get inside. We don't really know what's inside until we go in. But on the outside, what are you seeing generally?
Well, there's no question that the city is it's a historic city. It's, you have buildings that date back, to 1700s, like in certain areas. And so this will intrinsically always be a historic city. It's city in itself is a landmark. You have an amazing, probably some of the most amazing architectural sort of, these buildings here that are that date back and that have been restored, preserved, and so forth. So, intrinsically, you're always going to have a city that will, resonate that sort of that vision of what the city was, back in the day, and that it has that history. I think when it comes to the contemporary architecture aspect of it, I think is that there will always be this mindset that you'll have to integrate that into the existing architecture, whether it's inside an actual building or within the city. So new buildings are always going to be coming, and they should look new and contemporary and bold and definitely speak of the future. And they just have to kind of play ball in a sense. They have to come down to the ground and make sure that it's meeting the rest of its context in the proper way, in the right way, in respect of the older architecture.
Yeah.
And again, that happens at the big grand new construction level, as well as just into an interior renovation, where you take an old building like your house, let's say, and then you want to do a contemporary sort of re-envisioning of the inside and maybe even some components of the outside. And the idea is there is to find a way to marry those together, so they kind of come together in some kind of thoughtful resolve. Mm-hmm. And that respects both sort of visions, that you have to modernize certain things because of our culture, our living situation, our practical use of the space and what it wants to do, because you're probably, many times probably changing the way that building was used in the past, right? Yeah. So you have to find ways to bring it up to a level of, code and accessibility, and functionality, but that can be done in a very aesthetic way, where you're really, again, celebrating that there's new architectural moments and and new history that you're bringing onto the old history. And I think that's the key. It's got to be that any project that we ever come across, whether it's old, particularly it's an old site, an old neighborhood, old building, we're always going to start with what do we have? What can we celebrate of what the existing condition is, and use that as a place as a launching pad to say, now what do we do with the new ideas and the new program and the new architectural moments, and how do we enhance those while still keeping the history in mind, and making sure that we bring that importance and respect to that building. So it's possible. I think there's obviously times when you see people doing it the wrong way, and maybe not the most respectful way.
Yeah.
I don't. I think that to each everybody's own. I think there's always going to be hopefully a way to kind of find that perfect balance sometimes, or maybe imperfect balance. There's not really that perfect unicorn. It's really just trying to find a balance, and I think that's all you can ask for, and that's what we strive for.
So I want to put a pin in that, because I'm so eager to ask this next question, because it's the more risque question, and I think it's really funny. But I want to circle back really quickly to, because you answered a lot of it actually in that, but I want to talk about process. Like, I know very little other than there's a roof, there's floors, walls, things of that nature as far as like spaces. And that's the degree of my architectural knowledge or what have you. So what is the process, and what are those early on considerations when you're being approached for a new project?
There's so many things that we look at the beginning of the project that, really depends on where the client's coming from. A lot of times it's a question about budget, expectations, and intent. When we start off with a project with a client, we really look at a number of different things. We really kind of start with obviously their programmatic intent, their economical sort of ability. Like, what are we actually? What is the budget? Of a project that they're trying to do? What's the expectation? What is the existing building? What if it's an existing building, or if it's a site? First, what do we have here? What can we do with the site? Firstly, what legally, what can we do with the site? And in terms of zoning and use and so forth, we need to find out what are the existing conditions in terms of, is there any environmental issues there? Is there any, even for them, we suggest and talk to them about, look at the legal impacts of that site. Did you just buy the site, and or you're about to buy the site, and did you go through all that, aspect of it? So you really kind of start to dig deep and making sure that we know every bit about it. Like, it's almost like in its own mindset before architecture happens. It's kind of like we're archaeologists at a sense. We're digging deep at the building, we're digging deep at the site, and we kind of really want to make sure that we know what we got. As much as possible, and a lot of that, particularly when you're dealing with a historic building or an old building, it's like the bones. We got to see if the bones how much of the bones are good, how much of the skin is good, and what can we celebrate, what can we retain, and I think if we ask those questions, and we try to accept everything that's there, and really use it, I think that we're thinking about the economics of a project as much as possible. So the more we can be thoughtful and mindful about knowing what we have there, trying to accept and celebrate and really bring that to the forefront, and then think about how the new uses, their new uses and functionalities want to now take over that building. Those are the moments that we can start to think about how the new architecture, the sort of that new reading of what the details, project, the spaces and materialities and all that kind of stuff starts to, almost like symbiotic, in a symbiotic kind of way, kind of find its connection to the old building, and so that's what we do. Just really kind of digging at the existing condition and really seeing what you got there.
No, that helps, and thank you, actually, because it's one of those things I think when I talk to people who are in leadership roles is like, are you getting the lay of the land first? Are you getting the idea of what you're working in other than coming in and just like tear it all down? We're restarting. You can't do that all the time. It doesn't work.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of like think, always when you're working with this site or building, that's like the last resort, right? You kind of hope, can we start with salvaging or saving everything that we have there,
Yeah.
Or sometimes it's like you got something that that it's really just, pretty poor condition. It's not very historically, there's not much history there. A lot of times we have to say, well, that's intended to go away. That's something that maybe was done not too long ago. It's not something that is very sacred, and so we need to, basically push reset button on the site, and that happens a lot, and then that sometimes is when you start to see new construction come up and say, hey, this is a clear reset. There's nothing here that's really salvageable. Sometimes there's nothing there at all. And then we find an opportunity to start to develop new density, new opportunities, new programming, new spaces, and new buildings. And I think that's one of the things that is great about Baltimore is that there's still a tremendous amount of space and tremendous amount of infrastructure and old architecture, even some of the new architecture that has that ability we can grow from that and grow in the city. And we haven't even touched the surface in some cases. I feel like there's so much stuff here in the city that we need to, continue to embrace investment and embrace looking forward and looking towards the future, but of course not forgetting where we came from.
Yeah, I think being in kind of in two spaces of kind of embracing the historical component, because that's what gives it the seasoning, that's what gives it its culture, really, and then bringing it to now for the people who are here now that are going to be venturing into these places. And it's always kind of that almost uneasy sort of spot that some people are in, and seeing in your background that architectural preservation, that is, and I'm hearing that in what you're describing, because, there are places that people love here, and it's like, I need this here, I need to keep this here, and there are historical landmarks that are here, but really understanding, like, bringing something that is new while being respectful of the past and cognizant of the past and bringing that into the future is a very important consideration that people, I think, venturing in just aren't even like, oh, you're just coming in and just doing it over. No, this place didn't have a floor. The ceiling caved in, So I want to throw this one out. I got like two more after this, and then those rapid fire questions I was telling you about earlier. So I'm in a neighborhood where there's construction all the time, and I see some things, and you're buying a home, you're like, oh, code, and things that have to be done properly. What do you look for? And I know this is a little bit loaded, but what do you look for in like a well-designed like structure, and what is something that kind of sticks out as poorly or badly designed?
Let's see. So, a well-designed building. It's hard to say that there's a definitive one-line definition of both. I think a well-designed project is, we think about the process. It's internally, the process was cohesive. It was collaborative. It's like that beautiful dance between designer, builder, client, all the different parties in between that creates something from nothing. Like something that you kind of create this sort of sense of great transformation. And sometimes it doesn't need to be the most expensive, crazy sort of architectural building to make that happen. Sometimes you'll see that. I feel like sometimes you'll see some of the most humble projects and architecture projects that are the ones that create a tremendous amount of impact without having to do too much to what we already had, right? Yeah. So, I think those are smart projects. I think those are projects that are exciting because you kind of go like, oh wow, I wish I would have thought about it, or you see a project that you go like, wow, you imagine that to get this new transformation, you would have to do X, Y, Z, but they just did this. So I think it's like if it becomes effortless, if it seems to become like simple and you see a tremendous amount of a tremendous amount of impact coming from some of the most humble of moves. I think that's a very exciting architecture that we also embrace in terms of a process, in terms of a sort of a vision. But I think that's the type that actually also is receptive to cost. It's receptive to the historic quality of the neighborhood or the street or the building. It's receptive to knowing that, hey, that that it's respectful to the patrons that actually enter that space. I think so. So I think that that's a long-winded way of saying that's what excites me whenever I see a project, is that generally that it seems effortless, it seems simple, it seems very thoughtful and humble. But yet again, as a result, has a great impact. To your second question about bad buildings, I mean, I don't. There's a lot of bad buildings out there. I don't know how to say why are they bad? I don't know. I think sometimes I feel like the ones that are the bad ones, right, are the ones that I feel like it's not necessarily about the result, right? Everybody has their own, sort of personal taste about what architecture and what the aesthetic quality of it is and all that kind of stuff. So I think you can't really judge on that. Everybody's going to have their own opinion about and their own sort of style. I think, and you kind of, maybe it was in your tone where you have construction going on a lot, and maybe there's always some things that are not so nice to be around with construction, which is very evident. I think that the ones that I feel like are bad buildings are the ones that probably took a process that was not very communicative. It wasn't, that one that started off maybe not on the right foot. It didn't incorporate a lot of communication with the neighborhood, with the community, with community members. The process wasn't quite there. You have an owner that owns that building that doesn't really care about what happens outside that building. And I think that those things very quickly will lead to a project that you go, where was the synergy? Where was that? And you can almost sense it. You can almost look at the building going like, that one probably, struggled, struggled in the sense that it struggled with, the maybe even just in the relationship between owner, builder, architect, and designer. So that happens a lot. I mean, we're never going to say that doesn't happen in projects that we have. Like, we have those ones that are challenging, and then those are the ones that we learn the most. That the ones that go smooth are great, and we can sit back and really love to enjoy those, and then we say those are the good ones, right? And and sometimes some of the ones that are the most stressful and challenging is because we have members of the team that that do things in a different way, and we have to just be very mindful and trying to find a balance and trying to find adaptation between each other. I think we always try to when we come down to it, we never get to the point where it affects the end result. Hopefully, again, like I was saying earlier, there's not a perfect. In fact, I think we have to accept that everything will be sort of this kind of beautiful imperfection. That once the building is done, and I think even D. Watkins might even said it, or someone I've heard, it's like, even when a film is done, it's what it is. It's what that is. Was it the most perfect thing that came out? That was intended from the drawing board? Maybe not, but that's part of the process, and that's the story behind it. And you just hope that it doesn't resonate so much to where it leaves a bad taste in your mouth, that not only just in the building, but also how it represents itself to the community. And I don't think anyone's perfect. We're definitely not perfect, and I think we learn, and all we can do is try to find that balance.
Thank you. I think it's a good space for us to wrap up on the real questions and now key in on some of these rapid fire questions. And you've probably been noticing I've been drifting off on them because I've been editing as I've been going along. I was like, I'm going to ask this now instead of that. So yeah, I got a few questions for you. and I think they're going to be interesting. So if you're ready to rock and ready to roll on these,
I'm telling you, there's going to be the hard ones. Those
and,
other ones I can.
And I'll preface this
all day long.
Don't overthink them. Don't overthink them. People always overthink them. What's the last movie you watched?
Oh gosh, what was the last movie I watched? Oh man. Oh, you know what? I just watched 13 Lives.
Okay.
Did you know about that? The story about the 13 boys that the soccer team got trapped in the cave, and scuba divers did this for a hobby, just led this team to save them in this very bold and crazy way. And I remember seeing, I think I saw the movie and the documentary, and I was just like, I was floored by acts of heroism. I'm still like very astounded by it. And so if you guys are listening out there, you should watch that movie. It's really good.
Okay. Dream project. Like, what is something you're like, I need to get on that one right there.
Dream project. I don't know. I feel like all the projects that we've done so far, after even this short term of 12 years, gosh, I've hit all of my dream projects. Like, all of them I have right now are dream projects. So
nice.
What's a dream project out there that I'd love to do? We've always talked about it'd be fun to do a museum. It'd be fun to do hospital or school. I think those are things that are on our radar. Library, like a new library, new city library, urban library. I think that's probably if you were to ask me, I think definitely getting more into the cultural sort of institutional work. I think we would love to see more of that. I think that might be. I wouldn't say it's a dream. I'd just say that I'd like to see more of that and dig deeper into that. So.
Okay, I like it. I'm going to name it already, but I feel like there's space for a reality show, right? Is that going to be a yes or a no for a reality show for PI.KL Studio?
Yeah,
Is there going to be a reality show? Could there be a reality show?
Why would you even think that? I don't know. That's why I don't think we're that interesting at all to be a reality TV show. Although I will joke, we were approached by HGTV at one point, and this was like 6 or so years ago for a TV show. And I remember we did the interview, and I think Pavia and I, did it was a Zoom call, or I think it was a Skype call at the time. We didn't have, we weren't in Zooming then. It was before COVID. And they were, we went back and forth. They loved our work, and then they got excited about us. And then they met us, and it was like probably just like wah wah wah. It was like we're just, maybe we're just not dramatic enough. We're not funny enough, or whatever. So I think that ship has sailed. But but if you're out there, we of course would love to entertain anything that is fun and exciting, and it gets people thinking different ways. So, yeah.
I feel like the title would be In a Pickle. I feel like I'm going to be the executive producer. I mean, let's just make it happen. I can get it. I can spice it up a little bit. Just make it a thing. You guys do all the work, and I just kind of collect the checks. Nah, not at all.
Rob, you know where to find me. If you're gonna pitch it, I'm right behind you, buddy.
Okay. Last two I got for you. What is your go-to drink, whatever it might be? Because I've had some people get on this podcast and say they don't like water, which is hilarious to me. And I'm like, I don't know if I was asking about like actual drinks, but sure, however you want to frame that. What is your go-to drink?
Back in the day, I used to be I was a big whiskey drinker, and then I have some colleagues and friends of ours out west, and they brought me onto mezcal, and so I've been drinking. And if you ask me, that's my drink of choice. If anybody from Clavel's listening or Fat and Sonnen and those places, I think we frequent there a lot as much as we can, and give them like they need business, but give them our business at least. And we respect what Lane's doing out there, and everything that she touches is quality and sophistication, and so we go there for the drink. We also go there for the inspiration and the admiration of other people doing amazing things in the city. So So yeah, so mezcal.
Yeah, shout out to Carlos, shout out to Lane. They've both been on this podcast, so big shout out.
Nice.
Lastly, since you touched on it earlier, a lot of the projects you've worked on have been in like food spaces and things of that sort. So I got to ask this: what is your like lazy night meal? Like it's a weeknight. You're like, I don't have a lot of time. I'm super busy. What is that meal for you? Like, what are you like? I can throw this together. It's going to be satisfying, but no work was really done here.
No work's really done here. It might be a cheesy answer and maybe cliche, but I do like ramen. And I know ramen had, when I was younger in college and in high school, like ramen used to be this like, I don't know, maybe people would say it's almost a poor man's dinner or lunch,
Sure.
I think I was talking to Paulina I was like, back in the day, I remember you go to the store and buy like 10 for $1, 10 packs for $1. And
I do
now
remember
you
that.
go to buy ramen packs and you're like, it's $7 for 4 packs. It's like, what happened? It's like, it's crazy. So, I would say like, a lazy, this is the price as lazy as I can get it. I cook hot water, get a bowl, throw a dry ramen in there. And then just, I even throw a raw egg in there. And if there's like some lunch meat or whatever, throw some of that in there, pour hot water and let it sit there for a minute and you're good to go. So
I like
I
it.
don't know. It's my homemade version of the cup. The
Yeah,
ramen cup.
yeah, the old cup of noodle situation.
Yeah. So I still do that. I'm still just get ramen going really quickly. So
The ramen inflation is real. So with that being said, I think we're closing out here. So I want to thank you for coming onto this podcast. So thank you so much. And I want to invite and encourage you to share anything you feel like we missed. And pretty much tell the fine folks where to check you out and all of that good stuff. The floor is yours.
Oh, I just thank you, Rob, for doing these kinds of talks and interviews. I think it's great that you're meeting with exposing just the everyday person in Baltimore, right? The people that are doing something and making something happen. So I actually I commend you for doing that, and I celebrate your podcast. And if you as you keep working on this, and if you're saying you got to do video one day, someone has to come and see your face one day. You got the sweetest face. And people on the podcast right now can't see it. It's too bad. So if you're out there, give this guy some money and so he can get this thing on video somewhere.
I dig it. You're such a honey dripper. I appreciate that. So website real quick before we wrap up here.
Our website is PI.KL Studio.com. Instagram handles at PI.KL Studio. Check us out. We do projects of all scale and sizes, and again, we really focus in on the notion of transformation. The question that you asked about what's our favorite projects and what we always come back saying it's not a favorite project, and it's not that we choose projects because of what it is. It's almost like we look for the right partners and clients, and I would say we have our favorite dream clients is what we have right now. The projects are there, our projects are there, but it won't be a project without the right partner and a client. So we celebrate those clients that are ours out there that you hear us. We love you guys, and you entrust in us, so we're excited to continue the work here in Baltimore and beyond.
And there you have it, folks. For Kuo Pao Lian, I'm Rob Lee, saying that there is art and structure and architecture in and around Baltimore. You just got to look for it.